Good morning, everyone. One of our lovely followers has asked us to make videos or a video about how to start and deal with off-the-track thoroughbreds. So this is the first part of it. The horse that we will show you today is Harmony. Harmony is a 7-year-old off-the-track thoroughbred that has been with us for 3 years now. And we will go and talk to her owner, which is my assistant trainer, Jessica. All right, Jessica, tell us about Harmony, or Farm Safety, which is her jockey club name.
So Harmony came off the track when she was 3. She's actually Super Saber is her sire. He won the Derby back in 2010. She did not follow in his footsteps. She had the heart but wasn't fast enough. So she came off when she was 3. I got her when she was 3, turning 4. So she's turning into a dressage horse now, but it's been a long journey of rehab and just trying to figure out what makes her comfortable as she changes careers.
All right, everybody, while we watch Harmony and Jessica warm up, I will tell you a little bit about the background of this horse. So as Jessica mentioned, Harmony has been with us for 3 years. She came to us with no shoes and really, really teeny tiny feet. So that was the first problem we encountered, that we had to fix her feet. She also was very painful on her left front. And despite all the farrier work we had done, we couldn't really find out what it was. So Jessica went and did a CT on the horse, and so we found out that she had a kind of chronic inflammation and collection of fluid in her foot, and that seems to have been better with the excellent farrier work that she receives, which is special orthopedic shoes. And so that's one weak point. The other weak point of this horse is that it appears that she has broken at some point her pelvis and is a little bit crooked. So you can see it in walk right now that her left hind is a little bit shorter than the right hind. But with exercising, warming up and strengthening, you will see that that goes away during the ride. Since I mentioned Harmony's injuries, one other thing that is very important to mention for you, if you get an off-the-track thoroughbred, no matter what the person you get that horse from tells you, they're clear and they're sound and they have no injuries, that is usually not true. Every off-the-track thoroughbred has something that you have to deal with, and just because you don't see it right away doesn't mean that there's nothing. So please be considerate. In my experience, all off-the-track thoroughbreds need shoes. Some are okay with just having them in the front. Most of them need all 4. So if you get an off-the-track thoroughbred, expect that you will have a lot of expenses to keep that horse going. The other thing I can tell you about this horse is that, of course, like all off-the-track thoroughbreds, she is crazy athletic. And like all horses, she has a crooked side and a straighter side. Interestingly, her really crooked side is the left. I think that has to do with her pelvis, because usually horses are crooked to the right. Just as a kind of useless kind of piece of information, we think one theory is that that is because their appendix is on the right side, which is always filled with 5 to 6 gallons of fluid, so that makes it harder for them to bend to the right side. The other theory is that most horses are curled up in the womb to the right, and that's why it makes harder. I don't know which theory is true, but I know that most of the horses are crooked to the right. We have opted to use this horse for dressage because of her left front, so this is why we do not want to jump her, and also because of her possibly crooked, broken pelvis. All right, now we see here Harmony at work. So let's talk about a little bit of biomechanics. So biomechanically, we want the horse what we call forward downward with an elongated neck, nose forward. That does not mean that we want nose to the chest, which is very popular right now in dressage, and a lot of people think that that's a sign of collection. No, it's not. So Jessica is demonstrating that here, that she lets her reins pretty loose so Harmony can stretch into her hands, which will result in that the horse uses its hind end, and she asks for her hand to get that stretch so she really can get her hind end into the point of balance, and you can see that that works pretty good. She's tracking up pretty nicely. If you have a good eye, you will see that that left hind is still a little bit short, and so this is one of the things we're working on right now, getting Harmony a little bit straighter and work with that crooked pelvis that she has. And that's why you can see that we have all these poles here in the arena so we can strengthen her stifles. You can also see that Jessica has a crop. So the crop is always just an extension of your leg, and it's just supposed to encourage the horse to show more impulsion, to push off more from the hind to the front. We have found that for Harmony that is very, very beneficial, and it helps her with using her hind end more. All right, and now here you can see that Jessica is starting to use the poles. She is also doing nice wide turns in the beginning because we're still in the warm-up phase. And what we do with this horse is very, very little true work towards collection. Right now we're still in stretching her and getting her subtle and rhythmic to both sides. Okay, now we've changed to the left, which is always Harmony's harder side. So now her inside leg, if you look at that, you can see that she's dragging her toe a tiny little bit. The other reason we have here, or the other condition we have here, is that she's due for a trim. So our farriers will be back out on Monday. And then I'll try and get to it here. See that little bit of foam, that lipstick foam? That's what a horse that is relaxed is supposed to look like. If you see them dripping foam down their chest, that is stress. That has nothing to do with being relaxed or being in a good mental state, because at that point they can't swallow their saliva anymore. And then that is the reason why a lot of horses, despite being fed hay 24/7 and other measures, have ulcers. Because your horse makes its own stomach medication, bicarbonate, and the bicarbonate is in the saliva, and for the saliva to get into the stomach, they have to be able to swallow it. If you ride with too much hand, or horses are ridden in low, deep, and round, they will not swallow because they are in pain, and then that leads to ulcers. And no matter how much hay or other things you feed or do, it's not going to solve the problem. So one of the best measures for your horse to stay healthy is to learn how to ride and to develop them slowly and with care. The other thing you can see in this horse that she always has a little bit more trouble to bend to the left when she goes through turns, which is normal. That is just a stage because she's not subtle to both sides yet. So here, watch this. This is a pretty good turn to the right. And then let's look at a turn to the left. There we go. Did you see that? That was pretty straight. She's taking her neck to the outside. That's just simply difficult and hard for her. All right, here we see them at their favorite thing, or much more Harmony's favorite thing, because it's the canter. So she absolutely loves the canter. And you will see that especially that left hind that's always a little short will improve drastically after a canter. So in other words, if you are able to canter your off-the-track thoroughbred, and I mean canter, not leg salad and chaos, you have a nice rhythmic canter, please do so. That is very often a very good solution for them in warm-up because it is a full body stretch. They get to work through their whole body, and it's just good for their mind. All right, so now we have transitioned down to a trot, and you will see one of our exercises that we use for these off-the-track thoroughbreds, which is a serpentine through the center line of the arena. What that does, it teaches them to turn because we have to go through wide, gentle turns. And of course, poles are always beneficial for your horse's stifles and hind end. There you go. And here you can see after the canter, her hind end has vastly improved. All right, so important, and this is because horses are funny that way, is that you approach your poles from both directions. So to speak, from one time you go from A over the poles, and then the other time you go from C over the poles, because if you do it in just one direction, believe it or not, you will have trouble trying to do it the other way. And to have a saddle horse, you need to do it both ways. Okay, now we have Jessica and Harmony at a walk break. So that's another thing that is very, very important when you do pole work or any type of work. Give your horse breaks and walk them on a long rein so they can do what Harmony does, which is stretch. All right, now we see that we have added 4 more poles to the whole exercise. Still, the goal is to ride nice wide turns and to get her fluid over the poles. Here we go. Another part about our riding training that I want to talk about that is different. You might notice that Jessica is not catapulting herself up in the air, throwing her hips forward, but that she is just slightly getting out of the saddle, rolling upwards through her thighs. The reason for that is if you rise so high while you try to perform a rising trot, you have no control when you sit back and down into the saddle, and you will plop onto your horse's back, which is very uncomfortable for them. Our goal is that the horse pushes into us and not pushes away from us. So we try to make this as comfortable for them as possible. And of course, because we come from a cavalry tradition, we also take into equation that riding like this for miles and miles, if you get out of the saddle and throw your hips out and forward, you won't last very long. So just try it. It is more comfortable for you, and it is also more comfortable for your horse. All right, here we see another walk break before we get to the last task of the day, which will be a canter to the left, because that's always the hardest. You can see that Harmony is very relaxed. Her head is going bobbing just a tiny little bit, so that's what we want. She stretches forward, downward, she's relaxed, and she's absolutely focused on her rider. So speaking of the German training scale, which is our scale here, rhythm and relaxation, that's what it is. If you look at her footfall, you can see that now all feet fall in the same order. She is tracking up nicely, they are even strided, and the horse is visibly relaxed. All right, here we see the trot before the canter, and then we are in counter canter. That's okay. That's another thing that a lot of people panic about. If your horse goes into a counter canter and it is balanced, it is okay to let it go for a little bit. Here we go. Now we are what is deemed correct. And you can see how nice and floaty and rhythmic that is. She has a tendency a little bit to lean to the outside, which personally doesn't bother me in a young horse so much. You can also see that she is not straight, which is fine. She doesn't have to be straight yet. All this will come. And here we see off-the-track thoroughbred at work as she says, come on, we can do this. And her nice little grunting and singing noises she makes. Here and here, oh, that was a beautiful transition. So that was another thing that we struggled with this horse, was getting her down from a canter into a trot without her trying to run back into the canter right away. So when stuff like that happens, it's always that your horse is just physically not capable of it. It has nothing to do with being sassy or naughty. It's just a simple fact that all of what we're asking for them is hard for them. So always be patient. If you are not there yet, it's not a big deal. Take it back in your training. Revisit the step you did before. Don't panic and always stick to your own timeline. This is a personal journey for everyone and not a race or a competition. Good morning, everyone. One of our lovely followers has asked us to make videos or a video about how to start and deal with off-the-track thoroughbreds. So this is the first part of it. The horse that we will show you today is Harmony. Harmony is a 7-year-old off-the-track thoroughbred that has been with us for 3 years now. And we will go and talk to her owner, which is my assistant trainer, Jessica. All right, Jessica, tell us about Harmony, or Farm Safety, which is her jockey club name.
So Harmony came off the track when she was 3. She's actually Super Saber is her sire. He won the Derby back in 2010. She did not follow in his footsteps. She had the heart but wasn't fast enough. So she came off when she was 3. I got her when she was 3, turning 4. So she's turning into a dressage horse now, but it's been a long journey of rehab and just trying to figure out what makes her comfortable as she changes careers.
So this is part 1 of our off-the-track thoroughbred series. You have seen our mid-grade horse, I would say. We will show you my off-the-track thoroughbred later, Stella Rose. And then we have another one here right now who is a 6-year-old gelding who came to us last year from a Louisiana racetrack. And you will see vast differences in their conformation, how these horses developed, and how we will deal with them. So thank you for watching and stay tuned for the next video.